Hey there, wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of The Finnovator with me, Stuart Bell, business coach and creator of the Practice Evolutions program. In this masterclass, which was recorded actually quite recently, I sat down with Ilana Wechsler, who is the founder of Green Digital, a marketing agent that specializes in working in the digital space, and also the creator of the Teach Traffic program. And the reason I sat down with Ilana is because I guess in my experience, I've met and often worked with a lot of marketers down the years, and in particular, those who work in the online space. And when it comes to advice, I have to be really honest with you and say that the majority I've met along the way are not necessarily that great when it comes to actually producing results. And what I mean by that is generating traffic to an advice website that turns into inquiries, which ultimately turn into prospects, which turn into clients. And you could unpack all of the reasons behind it. There's a lot of great branding experts out there. There's a lot of people who can design a website. But again, the lead generation has always been a weak point. And when I met Ilana, the fact is I put her into the camp of people who actually do have this ability to jump in, understand how digital works, and actually set something up that generates results. And as you're going to find out as we go through this, I think a big part of the reason why she's been so effective at doing this has got to do with her background. Ilana actually spent some time working in the financial services industry as a data analyst. So her ability to analyze data and really get in underneath the nuts and bolts of it, I think this is one of the major reasons why she's been so successful. And this is what a lot of we talk about in this session. We talk about her own journey, which is an interesting one as to why she I guess bounced out of financial services, how she ended up in what she does now, and the kind of trials and tribulations along the way. I hope you get a lot out of this. Ilana is without doubt one of the people I've met in these past few years who is truly exceptional at what she does. And the results have been really evident in the businesses that I know have worked with them, of which actually a number came off the back of this session and signed up for her course. So I'll check it out. Let me know what you think because it's a really interesting space right now. And in particular, the last 12 months, I've never heard more and more businesses in the advice space who are generating more and more inquiries from digital, and often inquiries that they have no previous connection with, which is something, if you go back 5 years, you definitely couldn't say. Anyway, let's leave it there. I'm going to hand over to Ilana and myself. Let's dive into a masterclass in digital marketing. The background to this is I became really interested in digital back when the idea of being a social media paid expert, when I met Tennille Bentley over in WA, and she said, yeah, I'm a professional social media person. And I almost fell off my chair with internal laughing, because it just didn't seem possible at that point in the very early, like 2010, 2011, that could be a full-time job. But how much egg on your face can you wear in one sitting? Because since then, digital has gone from strength to strength, and it's gone through a whole bunch of evolutions. And it's interesting. I often think about when we talk about financial services firms, and particularly financial services firms that I work with, which tends to be, at the coalface. The leap towards digital has been a bit slower, and in particular, the leap towards digital paid advertising has also been slower. Like I've heard a number of different digital marketing experts from internally within the industry turn around and say people don't look for financial advisors on Facebook. But the reality is, these last couple of years, I think a lot of that has been started to be challenged. I think much like in the early 2000s, the idea of jumping into an online store and giving them your credit card was akin to inviting a horde of pirates into your home to take whatever they wanted. It's evolved, whereas now I think most of us, if we're not completely comfortable with shopping online, it's actually preferred method for a lot of us over certain periods. And I think paid advertising for advice as similarly, it's started to sort of gain greater and greater traction. Here's the thing about this, though. I've spoken to so many people in this space. I'm just going to, Jen, if you can just make sure we're managing mutes there for me. Thank you. I've spoken to so many people in this space, and I genuinely believe the number of people who understand those two fields, digital advertising, in particular paid advertising, and financial services, the proposition, you can count on probably one hand. But I connected with Ilana at the tail end of last year. I was introduced by a client. And the moment I sort of obviously did a bit of background research before I chatted with her, but the moment I spoke to her, I just got this overwhelming sense of somebody who really knew their stuff, not somebody who was representing themselves, not somebody who, their main focus or their main strength was marketing themselves, but someone who knew this. and knew what they could do and knew what they couldn't do. And the results that she's achieved across a wide range of things have been really impressive. So I wanted to have this discussion. Firstly, because I think the insight you're going to get into sort of what to do and what not to do and where to focus and what this is really about and what to ignore is valuable. But also, Ilana's got an incredible story, like really, really phenomenal story with a background in financial services. And honestly, every time I sit down and talk to her, I learn and I just kind of get more and more insight into how she's got to where she is. And she's been through a whole bunch of stuff, which will give you a sense of why she's successful at it. So with that preamble over and done with, Ilana, are you there?
I'm here.
There we go.
Turning on my mic and camera. Hopefully the tech gods are in our favor.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn my spotlight off so we can do a bit of this. There we go. Welcome this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us today. I'm so sorry for all the hicks and whatnots that have been going on in the preamble to this.
All good. And thank you for having me.
Whereabouts are you right now? Like, where are we talking to you from?
From Sydney.
Right.
Yep. Our eastern suburbs, just near Bondi. Please don't hold it against me. I know many people have an allergic reaction to Bondi.
You know what? I used to say that. I used to live in Bondi for a year. Bondi Road is the steepest road in the world because it's just so hard to get up and out of Bondi. And once you're in there, you're stuck in the gravity well. But
pretty much.
Very nice. I understand. Like we were talking the other day. You've taken up surfing like 4 years ago. Is that correct?
It is true, and I'm fresh out of the water this morning, so you're getting my post surf glow.
Oh, nice! I tried surfing. I was so bad at it. Really bad. Yeah,
it's so much fun.
So for those who don't know you and don't know, can you give us a bit of the high level of kind of who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and all that sort of stuff?
Sure. So essentially, I'm a paid traffic. I don't really like to use the term expert, but I've been running paid traffic for clients, and now I teach people how to run paid traffic campaigns profitably so that they don't need to hire an agency. So I do it for all sorts of types of businesses, and that's pretty much just because I've worked with so many different types of businesses. My husband always teases me that I, bring all these great stories to dinner parties because all these weird and wonderful niches that I've worked in, but I genuinely find them fascinating. So
what's the weirder? Like, give us a couple of weird ones that you worked in. I'd love.
Oh my God! Like, where do I begin? Like, just like so micro niche. Like, I had one client that had a membership site just for US history teachers. Wow. Selling lesson plans and all that kind of stuff. And this guy killed it. I've sold like grass seeds online. I didn't know anyone would buy grass seeds. I didn't know you could. Oh God, you're getting me on the spot now. I probably should have prepared some. Some people sold like scrapbooking book or something. Wow. I mean, honestly, you name it, I've done it.
It's amazing to me that, I mean, that's one of the things about the internet, right? It's the long tail thing, but you can find some really interesting ways that people don't just make a living, but they make really good money. And you just go, how the heck? It's incredible.
Totally. I had one guy who sold rollerblade wheels on the bottom of an office chair. And I thought, oh my God, how many people are going to buy that? Turns out a lot of people.
Wow. Okay. There you go.
Like a $10 million business.
Rollerblades for office chair. That's awesome. I can see why. And you've also done some work more recently. You've started working with financial services firms more and more. Is that correct?
Yeah. I look, to be honest, I used to, when I did a lot of agency work, I used to specialize in Google Ads for dentists. It's basically a local business kind of strategy that I've just now applied to financial services. And I guess, based on, what I heard you say about me, I do have a financial services background.
Yep.
So I have an innate understanding of the business. I was in funds management. I was in wealth management. So you can apply those, the knowledge that I got a while ago to common digital marketing strategies now. And the same principles. It's just applying it to a different niche.
So I'm keen, before we jump into that, I want to talk about your background because I think my impression is it's got a lot to do with why you have the skill set you have, and also you understand financial services better than most. Like, when you talk about paid advertising, can you just be very specific about what that is and what that isn't?
Yes. most people don't realize it. If I, go to a dinner party, let's say, and say, so, Ilana, what do you do? I do paid ads. They're like, oh, that's the organic, trying to improve your rankings on Google. It's like, no, actually, it's the little block of text ads that are above the organic listings in Google that you pay to when only somebody clicks on your ad. So you choose what you want your ad to show for, and you only pay when somebody actually clicks on your ad. So nobody clicks, you don't pay anything. So that's why it's called PPC, which stands for pay per click marketing. Obviously, those kinds of text ads are just one form of digital advertising on the Google network. You can also do what's called display advertising, which are the banners on other people's websites like Sydney Morning Herald or The Age or lots of high traffic websites. You've got YouTube, which is its own beast of an ad platform. And you've got Google Shopping, which are the e-commerce ads. And that's just the Google ad platform. Then you've got Facebook ads, which is Instagram. So basically any kind of traffic that you pay for is within my wheelhouse.
Okay. And the display stuff, it's kind of the stalker stuff, right? Where you feel like someone's following you around the internet. Whereas the adverts you're talking about, which is the one that usually got sponsored next to them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Beautiful.
So when you talk about stalking, that's a jargon called retargeting. That's somebody who's come to your website before, and then because of that, then the ads follow you. But you don't have to just do that form of display advertising. You can, show ads on Sydney Morning Herald to people who've never been to your website. You can show ads in the news section of the Sydney Morning Herald if that's where you think your target customer hangs out online. You can have a nice ad there. So it's not just the stalking component. That's sort of warm audiences versus completely cold audiences.
Okay, cool. So let's give me the background, because I know we've spoken about it, but you didn't start off doing this at all, did you?
No, I didn't. It's been quite the journey. And honestly, if you would have told me, 15 years ago, I would be here, there's absolutely no way I would have believed you. I did a science degree. Actually, I'm like a computer person, but I was always fascinated with finance. So I did an undergrad degree in science, and then I went back and did a master's in finance because I wanted to work in financial services. And so I worked in financial services for a number of years. I worked for some pretty big name businesses, one of them Goldman Sachs. Worst experience of my life. Sorry, I probably shouldn't say that. I lasted 11 months before I just, was not a fun experience. But I really loved financial services, actually. I was genuinely fascinated by financial markets.
Yep.
I worked as a data analyst for Dimensional, was my last job.
Yep.
And I worked there for, I think, two to 3 years, I'm not sure, before I decided to have a family, basically. And I was pregnant with my first child when I was working for Dimensional. And contrary to, the classic entrepreneurial story of, I dreamed of starting my own business and, unleashing myself from the shackles of corporate, like that wasn't me at all. Actually, I loved my job. I loved the people that I work with. They were easily the smartest people I've ever met. They were all like, my boss had written a maths textbook, like he was a genius. And I had every intention to pursue my career at Dimensional. But, life didn't have that in store for me. When I told them I was pregnant, which I knew wouldn't go down too well, I was, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's the truth. I was taken off all projects.
Yeah.
Even while I was working there, and I basically sat and did nothing for 6 months, and it was awful. And I would say to my boss, have you got anything for me to do? Like, I'm bored. And they're like, honestly, Ilana, well, you're not going to be around for very long, because you're going. And like, it was, people say, oh, I'd love to go to a job and not have to do anything. Like, it was torture for me. And I actually had every intention of going back when I did have my child. But as I think I told you, Stuart, I had a pretty severe pregnancy complication in the very late stages of my pregnancy, resulting in me and my son almost dying, which is pretty crazy, but this is actually what happened. I had a hemorrhage. And you pretty quickly reevaluate life when that happens, and very, very close to losing my son. And so you sort of reevaluate priorities. And, I thought about my job at Dimensional, and I used to work basically 7 to 7. And then when I was a mum, I'm like, hang on a minute, my son's awake from 7 to 7. Like, when exactly am I going to kind of get to see him here? So I still was hell bent on going back, and I said, look, can I come and work part-time? They'd probably get fired for saying this, but this is going back 15 years. They basically said, look, we'll let you come back part-time, but you're effectively pressing pause on your career. Like, you'll never be promoted till you come back full-time. And so to me, that was a no-brainer. It's just a dead end. Looking back, I'm actually quite grateful that they were honest with me to some degree, because they could have kind of not said that and then strung me along, and I would have sacrificed really amazing time that I had with my son, which I'm forever grateful for. And hey, I ended up starting my own business, and here I am today. So really, I feel like I'm much better off, but it wasn't without a struggle.
You know what? It's when we had Hermione, my wife Rachel. She had the same experience. She was I'll say it. She was a planner at Westpac. She was one of their high performers when she went on mat leave, and when she came back, she ended up being just ferried as a backup advisor from branch to branch. And I know, being sort of on the sidelines watching this happen, it was unfair, and it was really, it made me angry. So in the end, I said to her, look, come and work with me in this business. Wasn't the best decision. We didn't work well together, but it wasn't that long ago. That's the thing. And the fact that in Japanese, they call it the window people, but the idea that it would actually happen in Australia and in this area, it's mad. But it's really common. I mean, when I ran, when I was part of the startup incubator, Corporate to Freedom, back in 2013, we were targeting teaching corporate employees who we knew that a large portion of successful entrepreneurs come out of corporate. We were teaching them startup methodology, and this niche just emerged out of nowhere, which was either mums who are expecting or corporate mothers who basically come out. They were on mat leave and they realized they didn't want to go back. So it was a really strong niche, but it's accidental entrepreneur, but I guess it turned out for the best.
100%, and really no regrets. And so when a lot of people ask me about my journey, and how what a big decision it was to make, I mean, it actually wasn't, because I really didn't have any other option, Right. And so I think if I did have an opportunity cost, I mean, I guess I could have got another job, but it's hard when you're a new mum and you want flexibility. You can't really ask for that with a new job, so I didn't really have I wasn't foregoing anything, what I felt, and I actually think if I did have to forego, there was some opportunity cost there, and I was letting go of a really great job to pursue something. That's actually a much bigger leap than the leap that I made.
So when we started talked about this, because you're out of corporate, you made that decision for maybe definitely a bit of push in there, but ultimately you made the call. I'm not going to put up with this. I'm going to do something different. I want a different situation. I want a different experience. You at that point in time hadn't done any digital marketing before. I mean, you had a data analyst background. You had the ability to, this was in your skill set. But it's interesting because, as I said yesterday, I think if your journey to build into where you are now kind of mirrors where a lot of maybe advisors are with digital marketing. It's like they start from ground one and go, I have no previous experience in this, or I've no grounding. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Totally. I mean, I didn't even know what a Google ad was. I mean, I mean, there was no one who was more green than me. And, it's funny because I say to people, unless you just have to start, even if what you're starting and where you're starting is not right, you're going to end up somewhere that you don't know yet, that you don't know exists because you haven't yet started. And so it's so important just to do something, to move, not to be paralyzed and do nothing, because as I've heard someone say, you can't steer a parked car, and that's absolutely true. You just got to get moving. And only because I started to do things and had failure upon failure upon failure did I then go, okay, turn left. Oh, okay, this is where we're going. So yeah, I certainly didn't have a marketing degree. I didn't have a business degree. I was a science person who built computer systems.
This has just come up. When you look at paid advertising, how much of it is marketing and how much of it is just data?
I'd say 50-50, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a massive creative component, but there's also a decent numerical data analysis component.
Okay. And if you had to break down, like, what are the bits you should be doing and as a data-driven exercise, and which are the bits that you should be approaching from a marketing touchy-feely, not touchy-feely, emotive perspective?
I think like what people, the problem is with these digital advertising platforms is there's an insane amount of data that they give you. And so therefore there's a confusion and an uncertainty around which data is worth paying attention to and which data is not. And
Right.
so part of my job in helping people is distilling the right things to focus on and what they're telling you, and the stuff that is just kind of like, forget about that. That's not relevant.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, you can be very, very creative that will make a massive difference to the performance of your campaigns. Really, I guess it depends on if you're talking Facebook ads or you're talking Google ads. Google is a lot more clinical and it's way, way less creative. There's a whole strategy component, but on the Facebook ad and social media side of things, you could be a bad ad manager in so far as, let's say, showing ads to your customers would be a bad ad manager. Like, what's the point? They're your customers already, right? But if you do that on social, the ability for people to comment on that ad and hopefully leave you a lovely kind of comment going, oh, I've used these guys, Stuart was great, he gave me great advice, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly your ad is turned around and it's got all this social proof on it, So it is a way more forgiving ad platform. There's a lot more creative, can sort of take on a life of its own. The fact that, as I said, people can comment, people can share it with their network, they can like it and all this. So it kind of, there's a wildfire component to it.
Okay. So this is going to be a huge question, and push it back if you don't want to, but you've obviously been on, about a 10-year journey?
15.
15. Okay. Like, can you give us a bit of a sense of how it's evolved, how it's changed, what you've learned, so that maybe someone listening to that who's at the very beginning, they can cut straight to go to the most direct path instead of going down a bunch of dead ends that invariably I imagine you have.
What has evolved? Paid traffic or just
like what you do?
What I do?
Yeah, you would have started doing something and going, okay, that didn't work, or that's,
Oh, God, yeah. I had so many failures. I mean, when I started, as I said, I didn't even know what a Google ad was, right?
Yeah.
So I sat down with my newborn son, as I said, and I thought, crap, what am I going to do now? So I thought, well, what are my skills? So I had really good Excel skills, because that's what I basically did for financial services. I thought, well, maybe other businesses need help with Excel and I can kind of do that while he sleeps or at night. And so, this is going back 15 years ago, I put an ad on Gumtree, and for, people who need help with Microsoft Excel and building complex spreadsheets, because I used to do the whole, formulas and link to databases and all that kind of stuff. And to my surprise, people responded to my ad, and I actually got like a real decent mid-level client out of it. So I got all excited. I thought, I've got something here. I therefore need a website, right? But of course, I didn't even know how to build a website. I mean, I built it at uni because I did coding at uni. So I thought, I bought the domain excelhelp.com.au. I no longer still have it, by the way. And I built a website, and to my surprise, no one came to my website. So I'm like, oh my God, okay. Sounds familiar. Of course, hence my naivety. I didn't even, realize. I just thought you had to build it and they would come. So I thought, okay, I've got to get traffic to my site. So, there are companies that do this. So I start calling them around and they start giving me quotes for, what it would cost for them to help me, get traffic. And their quotes were coming in. I'm like, oh my God, I got to be in this business, let alone my stupid Excel business. And so that kind of was my left turn away from, those kinds of offerings to the digital space. But I didn't even know where to begin. I had absolutely no idea. Right. So I had been at college in America and had met a friend of mine who I knew was in the space. So I reached out to him and I said, help, I want to get started with digital marketing. I don't have a product to sell. what do I do? And he goes, oh, you don't need a product. You can sell other people's product for a commission. I'm like, sold. So that's called affiliate marketing. So he sort of got me on a journey from learning from someone, and I tried my hand at affiliate marketing, and I failed dismally. I tell you what, I spent hours and hours trying to get some traction, it was just a dismal failure. So I thought, oh, great, back to the drawing board. So being the data analyst person that I am, there was a website called Flipper, which is a marketplace for people who are buying and selling websites. And because it's a marketplace for it, they reveal their entire business model. So I thought, perfect, I'm going to analyze the listings on Flipper to see the different business models, because I was just like completely green. And I found it fascinating, people's niches that they were in and all that kind of stuff. And there was one listing for a website which sold for $80,000. I still remember this. And essentially it was a content website about, I can't even remember, it was like financial stuff actually. And it sold for $80,000. It was making $5,000 a month just from earning revenue from Google Ads. And I just thought, oh my God, if I can make $5,000 a month and obviously not have to pay for childcare and still be around for my son, happy. So this guy was actually selling a report on how he did it for $100. I'm like, dumb, I'll buy that. So I bought that report. And I tell you what, if he would have told me, like in his report, to, jump on one leg and pat your head, like I would have done it. Like what I followed this thing to an absolute T. And in hindsight, he was just teaching long tail SEO, basically. Of course, I didn't know what SEO was. I didn't know that that's what it was. So I did it, and I built a content website, and it actually worked. And so I got it to a couple of grand a month. And so I thought, oh, great, this is working. Time to build another one. So I had hired writers. I had a whole bunch of websites that I built, and I actually had a really, really nice business until this whole premise of make money while you sleep. Well, I worked hard all day to make money while I slept because it was all targeting the United States. So I used to wake up in the morning and check my earnings from Google AdSense, it's called. And this is going back a long, long time ago. And until one morning I woke up to check my earnings, and there's no earnings. I'm like, okay, maybe either my site's down or I've lost my rankings. And so, logging on, I'm like, please make my website be down, because that's a logical reason and it's an easy fix. And it was not down. And literally overnight, my business came crashing down.
Oh, wow. And
so I thought, okay, this is time to get serious and not build some crappy kind of, SEO business. And so I flipped the equation and then became the person who put the Google ads on content websites like the ones that I had. And so rather than being enemies with Google, because it's always this cat and mouse kind of game with Google, I became friends with Google. So, I used to get invited to events, their training sessions, they very much support people who help companies with their Google ad campaigns, because they get them to spend money, right? Okay. So I very much became, and so that's when I kind of took the shift.
Nice. That's a heck of a lot to squeeze into a short space of time.
Well, I mean, that was about 4 years. Well, probably 3 years. Yeah. But I in that time, I was just, learning about the industry, learning all different things. I went to some events, and I met there actually a long-time mentor of mine who's still my mentor, a guy called James Schramko. And I joined his community, and it was in his community that I would hear about all the different types of, ways that people kind of, or digital advertising. And over and over, people were asking for help with Google ads. Okay. And I'm like, God, what are these Google? And they're all referring to this one person, I'll go talk to this person. I'm like, what is it that she does, So I actually approached her and I said, what is it you do? She told me she did Google ads. And I'm like, I will pay you for you to teach me. Will you teach me? Okay. She said, no. Wow. And I said, thought to myself, well, screw you, honey. I'm going to learn anyway. And I did. So, and then I started just creating posts in James's community. And then, I earned clients that way. And that was really how I started my agency. I would like to say that it was very strategic of me to only do Google ads. It really wasn't. I discovered Google ads and I thought, this is my home. This is the perfect marriage between creative and data. I'm friends with Google. I can build a solid, reliable business. I can do really good work for customers that are really happy with the value I'm providing. And it's complicated enough that it keeps it interesting for me, but not too complicated. And yeah, I honestly fell in love with it. And I just thought, I'm not going to do anything else just because I don't want to. And it ended up being a very strategic decision by total fluke, because I'm actually a really bad business person. But I kind of became known as like the Google ad person.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's how it really started.
So the answer might be really, really quick. It might be because I don't want to. But why paid instead of SEO? Because both of them are about doing the same thing, which is generating, traffic from places like YouTube. But you've decided to go down the paying for the eyeballs route rather than the other one. What's and this might be useful for someone who's listening to that and they've been dabbling in both. Why did you choose one over the other?
Oh, it was easy. Well, I did SEO, but for my own websites. And it's a lot of smoke and mirrors stuff. You're constantly, it's a cat and mouse game with Google, because Google kind of don't want you to game the rankings. I felt ethically I couldn't do it for anyone else without a guarantee that I can produce a result, so it's sort of a bit like, well, I mean, I can try to do this, but I don't know if it's going to work, as opposed to hand on heart going, I know that this is going to work and I can help you. And I would hate the first thing that entered my head when I woke up that morning to discover I had no earnings and my rankings disappeared was, thank God I had not doing this for clients, and I don't have an angry client on the other end of the phone, which they would be completely justified, by the way, saying, where's all my traffic? And you can't do anything about it, So ditching SEO was personally a very, very easy decision for me. I was relieved to not kind of be in that game. Right. People might be wondering, what are my thoughts on it now? I think it has its place in the world. I'd say to most people, though, to start with Google Ads first, because Google Ads will reveal which are the keywords that are worth pursuing with SEO. A common misconception people make is that they start with SEO because they think it's free traffic, although you're paying for an SEO person. It's not free in my book. Plus, they don't really know what keywords to rank for. I mean, you can do keyword research and find high traffic keywords. That's easy, but traffic for the sake of traffic there's no point. It might not convert, like to rank number one Australia-wide for financial advisor might be useless if you don't service every state. The same for a dental practice, right? So you want to know what are actually the terms that make people pick up the phone and call you. And often those terms don't have a lot of search volume, but the quality is really good and they're actually quite easy to rank for. So
this is one of the things I found, because I've invested some time and money in a number of different keyword tools. And obviously what I do is it's fairly niche, like niche market, niche area, niche topic. And so you can kind of recognize that the volume's not that high. And most keyword search tools, particularly if you're trying to focus outside the US, they're really good on the top level stuff and the high traffic stuff. They're not that great on the low level stuff. So you kind of find yourself targeting a bunch of keywords that, to be really frank, often people aren't necessarily going and typing into Google a lot.
Couldn't agree with you more. And at the end of the day, it's about the terms that result in people actually taking action. And so, even if you do rank for everything in SEO, you've got no way of knowing that because analytics hides that data from you. So you're kind of in the dark a little bit, So Google Ads will tell you all that information that you can then take to your SEO person and go, hey, I want to kind of try and optimize for these types of keywords. Then at least you're spending money on keywords that are worth pursuing rather than generating you a whole lot of traffic that does nothing.
Which does nothing, absolutely. I would love to talk about the agency thing, because that sounds like it was a big part of what you did and what you focused on. And I think there's a lot of firms out there that will kind of look at this and they'll go, well, I'm the advisor, I'm the rainmaker, I'm not really the marketing person. So maybe I don't need to learn it. Maybe I'll just go and find an agency who can do it for me. And my experience has been agencies are a bit like, I don't even know the analogy. It's like trying to tell the difference between ants. they all look kind of the same, but some of them actually do what they say, and others are, to use the phrase I say is sometimes the best thing they're doing when it comes to marketing is market themselves, and everything else isn't great. Like, can you give us a bit of an internal view on the agency landscape and how to make sure you don't throw a bunch of money at something that's never going to work?
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw a really good analogy of this. I'm certainly not going to claim it my own. It was the guy I follow on LinkedIn, and he had a really good analogy of the digital agency, which I really agree with. He says digital agencies are kind of like used car dealerships, okay, where at the front of the organization, you have the salesman, and the salesman is there saying, "Oh, we can do, we can do X, Y, Z for you," without really having an understanding of what's actually under the hood of the car, right? So they promise the world without really kind of understanding the nuts and bolts of how it all works, what actual results people are actually getting, and, is their strategy right, etc. On the other side of the used car dealership is the actual mechanic, right, who is not really client facing, but really kind of understands the nuts and bolts of how things work, but they're not a great people person, and therefore they're not client worthy. Yep. So this disconnect between the client facing person and the actual person doing the work is where the problems lie for so many clients, because they get promised the world that that company can do X, Y, Z for them, and their salesperson probably actually has really good intentions. Like, I'm not saying they're deceitful. They just have a lack of understanding and experience of what actually is involved, what are actual conversion rates that are expected, and what's worked for others. And so that's why I think a lot of people have really, really bad experiences. There also are a lot of really dodgy operators out there. I actually used to teach Google. I used to run full day workshops for Sydney Uni for a number of years to business owners. It wasn't like uni students. It was their Centre for Continuing Education, whatever. Anyway, the point of my story is I had a room full of business owners, about once a month, right? And guarantee you there would be at least one person in that room, as I said, they're all business owners, who had fallen victim to some of the classic pitfalls and shady tactics that these agencies do. And the classic one is that the agency sets up their ad account for them and obviously manages their account, blah, blah, blah. And then if they decide to sever ties with that agency for whatever reason, they don't have access to their own ad account. So essentially the agency says, I'll create an account for you. Oh, let me take care of it. It's totally fine. And then when they leave, they lose their ad account. The agency retains that. Now, that might sound completely benign, and you think, well, what's the big deal, right? The problem with that is you lose all that data. So the data I was saying before about which are the terms that result in people actually calling you, you don't have any of that information. Your ad account, which is hopefully nicely primed and the pixels been warmed up and all that, you've got to basically start from scratch with a brand new ad account, not knowing what keywords are working, what ad copy is working, which strategy to do. And I think it's ethically really wrong. You should own your own ad account and then give your manager or the agency access to your account, which you own. And then if you decide to sever ties with them, you simply remove them and you retain your own ad account.
It's the same with websites. It's like if someone's building a website and they're whacking it on their content management platform, which I don't care how good it is, it's not going to be better than WordPress and Elementor, for example. And then next thing you know, you're paying an ongoing fee. And the moment you step off it, you can't access it in the back end. And look, to be honest, that used to happen in financial services a while ago. Where you'd have your advisor would have access to an in-house platform, and as soon as you if you ever left that advisor, you had to transfer all the funds off the platform, exit fees, tax. Yeah, I know. Is there any other ones that you should keep an eye out for?
What do you mean?
Dodgy things to watch out for.
That's a big one. As I said, I had someone in my class who didn't even own their own Google Analytics account. Like, Analytics is for all the traffic on all your website.
And it's free.
It's free.
It's not like you have to pay for it.
Totally. There's just some really dodgy operators out there that are just I just don't like it. A lot of agencies charge a percentage of ad spend. Personally, I never liked that model. I just felt like I shouldn't be rewarded for you to spend more. I shouldn't be incentivized. So I much prefer a flat monthly fee model where I get paid regardless, whatever. If you just, and we have like thresholds of ad spend, obviously, because an ad account that spends, $1,000 a month is very different from one that spends 20. But essentially trying to remove that. I never liked that percentage of ad spend model.
Fee for service, in other words, instead of, commissions.
Exactly.
The one thing I wanted to ask, and this is really important, because if you're going to go and you're going to work with an agency, cost is going to become an issue, and it's like working with a PR firm. Like there is a certain level below which it's just not worth it. So in your view, if you're working with an agency, there's two fees that you're probably looking at. There's the fee you need to pay them, and there's the amount you need to spend in order to actually get results. Like realistically, what do you think if you're paying under a certain amount, you've got to really ask some questions about whether or not this agency are really doing what they needs to be done, and B, whether they're actually good enough, because price is sometimes a factor. It's not always, but sometimes it's a factor in quality, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think I've had people come to me and say, this agency's quoted me $600 a month or something, and I'm like, okay, good luck with that. Because I honestly, like, anyone who is half decent in terms of like they know what they're doing and they generate results, they can really, charge a lot more than that because they produce the results, and it's still a no-brainer for that particular client if obviously the value's there. So yeah,
under $600 a month runaway.
It's red flag. It's red flag material.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And I think I'm really cynical about it, so I tend to ask a lot of questions. Actually, one thing, and I apologize, I can't, for some reason, just to add to our tech woes, it's now decided to turn off screen sharing. I'm making copious notes, and I will share them afterwards. Can you give us, and I can make these notes on screen, can you walk us through the return on advertising spend, or however you would, put the numbers in front of a firm to really identify that if they're going to pay $2,000 a month, what they should be aiming to get off the back of it, for example?
Look, it's tough to answer because every business is different. Yep. I often say to people, the success that you will have with advertising online will hinge on really three components. Okay. The first is the traffic you buy, which, I've got you covered there. But the second is how well your website will convince people to contact you. Yep. And the third is really like what your offering is, Yep. And if any of those three things fall apart, the whole thing falls apart. So I can send the best traffic in the world to your website, but if your website isn't mobile optimized and not set up to really convert people, not necessarily to become a client, but at least sell the call to get them on a call that you then, go through their sales process, then no amount of good traffic will do that. But the good thing with ads is it will reveal if your website is not doing its job. Yeah. Because you can look through that data and go, I'm getting in front of people who are typing in financial advisor Brisbane, financial advisor, Gold Coast, financial planner, right? I know I'm getting in front of exactly those people who are searching for it at that instant. I'm sliding my business card under the nose and at literally the instant they are searching for it. They are clicking on my ad. Yes, not everyone is going to contact me, but why is nobody?
Yeah.
Clearly, there is something that people like. I'm not instilling much trust in people. Maybe I need to incorporate some testimonials. They don't kind of think, I don't really trust these guys. So it will reveal if there are conversion problems on your website, which I believe is relevant for all your traffic rather than just your paid. It's relevant for SEO traffic, etc. It's the perfect testing ground for that. And often many businesses, and I've done this over the years, particularly US based because they're pretty savvy over there, that they will buy that data for like 2-3 months and just tweak their landing page and website constantly to improve the conversion rate before they do like a proper launch, because it is the perfect testing ground.
So I know it's really hard to put the numbers, but let's say you're generating 1,000 click-throughs to your site. Mm-hmm. and let's say they're a good quality. Let's say you've got your targeting right, and that's not the issue. Like, what percentage of those should be, signing up for something, or even, making an inquiry? In ideally, if you're at that point where you're going, "Yep, I've nailed it."
I like to say, and I think averages lie. We all know that, but I look for as a baseline at least a 5% click through rate. So 5% of the people who see your ad actually click on it, of which you're only paying for the people who click. But so you look for at least a 5% click through rate of your ad, and then of those people, a 5% conversion rate. Typically, though, because I've worked with a number of financial services businesses, you get a higher click-through rate, so above 5%, because there's all these tactics that we do with, I'll spare you the technical stuff, but we generally get a better click-through rate. And if the conversion rate is lower than 5%, then I start to help people, advising them of changes to make to their landing page to improve that conversion rate.
Okay, perfect. So impressions, number of people you get in front of. If you're getting the right, or to get in front of the right people, you should get 5% click through. So 1,000 people, you get 50 people clicking through. Higher if you've got, you're doing it smartly. Of those 50 people, 5% who are clicking through, you should be getting at least 2 or 3 of them every month, presumably, who are coming through. That's 5%. So 5%, with potentially the variability, that 5% difference between impressions and click through. Correct?
At the low end, like, if you're lower than that, then there's problems that need to be fixed. I mean, obviously you're always looking to improve things. But yeah, so they're the averages, but I've seen higher, I've seen people get like much better results than that. It is possible. And yeah, so everyone is different, but the first question I ask people is, how much is a lead worth to you? And so obviously a lead is different to a customer, but once it kind of gets them thinking about how many leads they need to get in front of, how many will become clients, how much is that client worth you, so you can kind of work backwards from there.
I know we're sort of running towards the end of this. I want to ask a really important question in a second, which is, in your opinion, a firm who's doing this well, how many clients should they realistically be aiming to get from paid traffic every month? But I wanted to sort of just give a moment, because one of the things I'm really interested in is you've done the agency thing, and I know that's still part of what you do, but your focus now is very much from teaching. And as I've said to you, I'm as soon as we get a bit ahead of it, I'm going to sign up for your course, because I think it's fantastic. I think the structure of it is amazing, and I know I've spoken to others who've done the course and have really rated it. Do you want to tell us a bit about Teach Traffic, how it works, and like if people are interested in learning more about it, where could they go to get some information on it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So obviously teachtraffic.com is the website. It's an online community and like portal, which has all my training courses. And also I help people online. Like, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was in digital years, but, I still remember when I was starting out online and learning, and you can do a course and that all makes sense and is clear. But then until you're actually doing it, it's often like making that leap is hard. And I remember that. So my goal with Teach Traffic is to help bridge that gap for people, so that they have the confidence that they can run their ads so that they don't need an agency. And I honestly, I still have an agency. So, I'm not dissing an agency there. It still has its place in the world, but I genuinely believe, and I've helped so many people now, if you're spending under $5,000 a month on ads, like, you kind of don't need an agency. Like, it's not a full-time job. Once you set it up correctly, there's just a couple of little things you need to do. I reckon it's like an hour a week, actually, to manage it. And the money that you'd spend on an agency, you can spend on your ads. It's not rocket science. You just need to learn a handful of strategies that I know have worked for years and still do continue to work. And so I help people kind of one-on-one that way. And that's my goal. And maybe you get to a point where you spend a lot more, and then maybe, you do hire an agency, but at least below 5K, maybe even 10K. Like, it's like kind of buying a Ferrari to go buy your local milk. Like, you just don't need it. That's my opinion.
What I really love about your approach, because it mirrors like what I believe about coaching, which is, You don't just give people the content and here you go, watch it and see you later, or you do it, or just do a group call once. Although you do this kind of session, you actually have different structures where you will go in, depending on what you're doing, and you'll look at the people's ads account, and you'll come back and go, okay, this is going well, this isn't going well, tweak this. In other words, it's you actually going in and taking an interest and fast tracking the process. The moment I saw that, I was like, that's the right way to do it. Not just give people a bunch of information and let them work it out the detail on their own.
Exactly. And, that was my pet peeve about doing these courses is you could never ask a question to the course creator. And I always had all these million questions. So I guess I'm trying to create something that I would have, given my right arm for. And I offer free account reviews for people, and they give me access to, they don't share their login or anything crazy like that. We add me as a manager. I screen record me going through their specific ad account, going, right, you're doing this well, don't do this anymore, do this instead, and kind of steer them on the right path. And it's like I would have given anything for that. So I've been that person before, so I don't have to kind of, cast my mind back too far to imagine that.
I'm the same. I've been in coaching programs where you just, you're in this coaching call and there's 50 people in front of you and everyone's asking you a question and you're just like, all I want is, I just need 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
You answer one question. That's, one thing let's bring it back to that question. By the way, it's teachtraffic.com. If you want to go check it out, I think you go to Teach Traffic and then just have a look at the way it works. It's good. And I'm not just spruiking this. Ilana and I had a conversation just before Christmas, and she gave me some suggestions for our YouTube channel, which we implemented in a small way. And the views, the week after we'd implemented it, they shot up by like 5 times. And it was just like, oh, okay. And it was such a simple thing we'd be missing out. So let's say, for example, you're a firm and you go and spend, let's pick 3,000 out. And I know this is how big, but I want to sort of hone in on what you think the opportunity is. Like, how many clients or inquiries do you think a firm can actually generate from digital marketing if they've got that spend going on?
Did you say, was it $3,000 a month?
It was $3,000. If you think I just picked a number out of my head, but
look, it's a bit hard to say because how much you spend on ads depends on 2 factors. The first is how much competition there is, and so therefore how much you pay for a click, because it's an auction. And so obviously if it's more competitive, like if you're in, Sydney, it's probably going to cost you more than if you're in probably Tasmania. That's the truth. But so how much you spend depends on the cost per click and the volume of traffic. So there might be some people who literally can't spend $3,000 a month just because there's not enough traffic for it. Like, they've bought all the profitable traffic there is. And let me tell you, that's a really common problem. Like, if it works for your business, you get to a point where you plateau and you've bought all the profitable keywords there are. Doesn't mean you stop doing that. It just means then you've got to add on different things. The beauty with this stuff, though, is that you can start really slow and you do find out pretty quickly if it's working or not. Another, shady tactic I think agencies do is they say, oh, it's going to take us 3 months to see if it works. I call BS. Like, it really doesn't. You kind of know pretty quickly. You know very quickly if it's working. You also know very quickly if it's not working. Yeah. Getting it to work can be a bit tricky because, as I said, it might be a website issue and all that kind of stuff. But so I want to be mindful to answer your question of, if you spend $3,000, what are the expected results? I don't think it's unreasonable to get, 30 to 50 leads a month with that kind of budget, so depending on what the leads are,
People reaching out and inquiring about advice.
That, or, signing up for an introductory call or downloading some kind of, ebook or something.
Yep. That's a good number.
Yeah. I mean, obviously your website has to be set up in such a way that instills confidence in people, and ideally there's a video on there. I think that's a massive area that people don't utilize. It's, so many people in the service industry don't have videos, and I think that's astounding. Like, they don't kind of go out from the comfort behind their website, and it's a relationship business. I'm in a relationship business. The second I put a video on my agency website, you can check it out, it's greenarrowdigital.com. Watch the video. I think it's like 49 seconds. It's not long, but literally the second I put a video on my website, the conversions increased.
Wow.
Because people felt like they knew me. This is, and financial services, I know this from my own experience, is a relationship business. They're trusting you with their money. They want to know who this person is, just like a dentist. So.
And it's worth checking out your videos, because you kind of see I see a lot of videos in financial services, these overly produced videos that just don't, they don't inspire anything other than what the hell. And then you get these other ones that are people reading, off a teleprompter. And I think the way that you do it is very genuine, and it's not without, I'm not trying to be funny, but it's not massive production value. It's just you talking. And that's the key thing.
And I think the fact that it's low production value is actually a really positive thing. Like, it's not that polished, and people feel like, they're really natural and I can relate to that person. Yeah. And it's, and as long as it instills trust, it's like, my husband's a lawyer, okay? And I was getting his website set up for him. We spent nothing on the website, but we spent we got a proper video created for his website. And, the power of that, I think, is way more valuable than a whiz bang flashy website that looks whiz bang.
Awesome Ilana, we could keep going. I know we could dive into so many areas, because every time I talk, even when I catch up for 20-minute conversation, 40 minutes later we're chatting about this, that, and the other. We've got everybody still on board. Can you guys do me a favor? Alex, Andrew, Elizabeth, Glenn, Henriette, Lyndall, can you just pop in the chat box? Can you just let me know one thing that you've taken from this? Either something that's changed your view, or it's reinforced, or something you've learnt along the way.
I'm happy to answer any questions if they want as well.
And I know the tech has been all over the shop. So I've been a bit nervous about doing certain things. Just pop it in the chat box. We get a bit of a sense. Questions, feel free to drop those in. But I would love to know, because I know, Glenn, you have done a lot of work in this space. Andrew, I know that this is something, anything tech really. Henriette, we haven't really spoken about this, but I know that you're on a growth strategy as well there. So pop it in the box. Elizabeth, I know you're playing in this like nobody's business. Henriette said, it's a question. What is the least amount you suggest on spend per month on ads if you are launching a small campaign, pay per click? Andrew, I'll just fire away, answer that question.
What's the least amount? Look, knowing what I know in financial services, they're not cheap clicks, basically. You're probably looking at around $5 to $8, $9 a click. And so therefore, do the maths in terms of let's say 5 clicks a day, you're probably looking at about $50 a day. Having said that, you can be really, really hyper strategically targeted with it. So, you probably don't, I've got lawyer clients as well. They have $50 a click keywords. So it's actually not at the high end, but where you can be really strategic with conserving budget. So a classic example is, people want to show their ads between 9 and 5, because that's when, they want to advertise, or that's when they're willing to take a call. Often, if we've got a constrained budget and we're testing things, we might only start the ads at 12 o'clock, because some of our competitors have run out of budget for the day, because you only set daily budgets. And we kind of come in the end in the afternoon and test some things that way. You can be really strategic that you only advertise on a mobile. You don't even bother desktop, or the opposite. If you find actually your desktop people think will convert better, which often does, because I think it's more of a desktop kind of thing. And you could turn off mobile and only do desktop. So the least amount is actually, you decide that. I say to people, you're going to pay with money or with time. So it might just take you longer, because your ads are going to run out of budget each day to determine what's working and what's not. But if you've got the time, then do it. But you really don't need a huge.
There is a flaw. I've found. I'm started playing around with it though. Under a certain level, your Google ads just won't run, and I think that's around about $50.
I think to test it properly, I would say $50 a day, but you're not committing to doing that for a year, and maybe you don't run it on the weekends. So it's, 20 days in a month, $50 a day, whatever that math is, $1,000 a month. But you could do it for 2 weeks, and that's,
do just before Christmas, do one just before end of financial year. You could.
I actually think January. January's a really good
Actually,
time.
January's really good as well.
Yeah.
Andrew said it reinforced what we're doing with digital ads. And he's keen to do more, and apparently he's reached out for a quick chat. So,
Cool.
I'll have a great time with Andrew. And he also said the value of a 15-minute call to him or us is $1,149.89. So that'll give you a bit of sense, And that's it's interesting when you get into the detail of it. That's the point at which you go, okay, maybe it's worth spending $500 to generate one 15-minute call because next thing you know, well, maybe not $500, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Alex, was good to be carrying conversions of cost per lead. Glenn said probably give Google a go. It's a long learning curve. I mean, Glenn, go and check out Teach Traffic, because that middle, without sort of trying to lead you towards something, that middle package you've got, I just love the way you've got everything. It's training, and there's also this ability to kind of get personal input, which I know, Glenn, we've worked together, so I know that's valuable to you. Henriette said she liked that you clarified the difference between age. I think that was incredibly useful. Ilana, this has been amazing. I knew it was going to be, but it was great to sort of have this conversation. Any final thoughts?
No, thank you for having me. And I guess I would say to your listeners to not be afraid. I think there's a lot of fear attached with advertising on Google. People are worried about as someone said, there's a steep learning curve. But, like anything, learning anything new, you start small and you grow and you build from that. You don't try and launch all these campaigns all at once. I've taught so many people now, and we just start with a really safe, one campaign that we, teach you how to kind of check in on things, and you grow and build from there. So not to be afraid. And I think that in 2024, this is the way business is done. I mean, I had someone recently join Teach Traffic who, get this, is a vascular surgeon. I would have thought, don't you get clients from GPs? And he's like, not anymore. People Google it. I'm like,
that makes sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense, because that's the first thing you do is, what's this pain in my left arm? Yeah.
So, I mean, this is, this is the way the world works now. And you can at least control your narrative online, So anyway.
Love it. If you want to check out more, go to teachtraffic.com. Otherwise, once again, Ilana, really enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I'll catch up with you all later. Take care. So there you have it. I hope you got a lot out of today's session. And I hope you took as much as I did in understanding that a lot of what needs to be done when it comes to digital, and a lot of the results come about not through, having a great value proposition and working your message, although it's part of it. It's not necessarily about, and particularly in that cold track area, it's not necessarily about, having a video on your site. Often it's about understanding the nuts and bolts and the mechanism behind it. And that's what I think Ilana demonstrated a real capability and understanding of. Hey, if you'd like to take in more, as you would know, if you have seen this on YouTube, these kind of sessions that I'm sharing with you now are actually originally recorded as webinars. And if you'd like to come along to one of these webinars and essentially fire your own questions at our guest, as well as maybe access the full library of content from past masterclasses and a whole bunch of ebooks, a free course that we make available, I'd love you to become part of our practice success community at success.auder.com.au. It's a free community. You can jump in and join. You can engage with other members of our community, as well as get a bit more of a sense of what I do and access to other experts like Ilana. As always, I hope you really enjoy that. If you want to know more, please subscribe to the podcast, and we'd love it if you just leave a bit of feedback and ideally a 5-star review. Other than that, I hope you're having a great week, and I'll speak to you soon.